Hello, this week's guest is CEO and founder of Pretty Damn Ambitious, Bianca B. King. Bianca, tell us more about you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. So great to be here. That's a lot. So, yes, as you said, I'm the founder and CEO of Pretty Damn Ambitious. I am also the president and creative director of 7573 Marketing Group, is a digital marketing agency that I started over 15 years ago, right during the Great Recession. But I think today we're here to talk about Pretty Damn Ambitious. And essentially, Pretty Damn Ambitious is a collective that I created during the pandemic to help women find really good vetted and verified coaches. I think we've all been through the instance of, we find a coach, we think they're good, but they're not quite as good as they look on paper. So I really want to make sure that we had a way to really ensure that we're getting connected with the people who can actually help us. And with that, I also created a community around that as well. So it's community, it's coaching, and it's career development, right? Making sure that you have the tools, training, and resources in order to really help your entrepreneurial journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And so, yeah, we're here to talk about pretty much whatever fits, right? Whatever fits the conversation. But I did want to mention that you promote adding our ambition to the rate and review list. Tell us more
Yes.
about this. And is this what led to you becoming known as the Ambition Lady?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's why I've been known as the ambition lady. I'm not sure if I'm actually known by as that at this point, but I always had this thing in my life and I just didn't quite know what the word was, right? It wasn't until my 40s until I like, oh, well, that's just ambition. Like I had this desire, this drive to succeed and not succeed at any cost, right?
Mhm.
What I'm trying to do is make sure that people understand that this is a new redefined version of ambition, and that is the joyful, diligent pursuit of success informed by one's ideals. If I can get it out. So, what does that mean? That means you get to choose the way you deploy ambition in order for you to reach success. Success on your terms, whatever that may be. So, your success could look like you just want to be a great mom and raise amazing humans, or it could be that you want to get to the C-suite, right? So, reviewing your ambition, that is something that you need to take stock of. Is your ambition pulling you or is it pushing you? If your ambition is pushing you, then you're probably doing it wrong. Your ambition should be something that is a driver in the sense it's pulling you towards the gift that the purpose, whatever that God put you on this earth for, right? It's not something that's being burdensome and hard and heavy. And that's why I say you need to review your ambition, because if it's not aligned with your core values and what you're trying to do in the world and in life, then you need to figure out something else.
I love that. So, but in essence, if it's not joyful, right? If you're not
Yes.
living joyfully while you're pursuing it, then you need to make some changes. You need to review your list.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's part of why when I redefine ambition, the joyful, diligent pursuit of success informed by one's ideals, I get it out this time. I wanted to make sure that I included joy, because a lot of times I think that we initially think ambition is this thing that you have to sacrifice and you have to, step over people and do all these things. And it's not, right? If you look at the Webster's dictionary term and definition, it just means the desire to succeed, right? And so ambition is just like a dressed up word for that. But along with that, when we do have that desire to succeed, why not include some joy in it? Why not make sure that we're celebrating those small milestones as well as the big things, and just making sure that we really are happy in whatever pursuits that we're doing?
Oh, no, I definitely agree. For me, there has been a focus around joy as far, as opposed to, happiness, right? Because
Yes.
there is a difference between the
Yes.
two. And so for me, I say that if it's not bringing you joy, then move on from it,
Yeah. I feel
Again,
the same way.
you're right, to use your words, review your list. Like,
Yes.
no, there's something else
Yes.
out there for you that you should definitely pursue. And so when you were talking about you didn't know what um, it was, later you found out and realized that it was ambition. But I
Yeah.
was thinking about a conversation I had yesterday. So I was in a meeting, and they were playing a video of a little girl. And a little girl, to use terms that we would have used years ago, and people still do, sassy, right? She was
Yeah.
grown and those things. And so what
Yeah.
I said, because language is important, I said, oh, she's a boss, she's a CEO, she's a
Yeah.
leader, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so again, when you said you didn't know what it was, at the time, it just made me think of that. The language is definitely important for us to call those things that, right? Because so many people put those negative labels
Mm,
on us. And so
yes.
for me, I wanted to reframe it for that little girl who she didn't hear, she wasn't hearing me, but still amongst the people
Yes.
I was with, just
Yeah.
reframing that language around them.
No, I love that. I have someone in my family that is a young person and they were very inquisitive about money. And someone said, "Oh, they're just money hungry." I'm like, "No, they're
Mhm,
curious about finance. Like they
mhm.
want to know how this monetary system works. What's wrong with that?" So
Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Like we need to make sure that we are being very positive with our children and anyone that we interact when we're speaking to them about some of those things, because otherwise it just it just you're just perpetuating that negativity, and we don't need to do that.
absolutely, absolutely. And then the money thing is like, look, even as adults, we're still trying to figure it out. So
Right.
kudos for that young person for asking those questions because we're not taught that, right? And and
Yes.
we're kind of like going down a different lane, but we're not taught that, especially as Black folks. We don't have that in our families. We don't really have those
Yes.
conversations.
Right.
So I applaud that person for asking the questions because she or he, will be further along than us, than probably
Yeah.
those people who made the comments, right?
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
they're getting that information, they're open to it and they want to learn more, right?
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this podcast is about elevating the voices of women of color. And so thinking about the strategies that you use and the tools that you provide your coaching clients, and what three ways can the rate and review list empower women of color uh, to tap into their power and voice.
Okay. Yeah. So one, I'm not a coach. I am a coach matchmaker, right? So I have
Okay,
like
okay.
these amazing coaches that I work with, and then I have members, and then I bring the two together. So I am
Awesome.
not a coach, even though a lot of people are like, "No, you're a coach." I'm a
Yeah,
mentor.
yeah.
Let's just put it that way. So what I always want women of color to know, especially Black women, because I am a Black woman, obviously, I want them to know that one, it's okay to dream really big.
Yes.
Like I think a lot of us just we temper our expectations. We've been told like it's unrealistic and all this other stuff, but it's like, how in the world did we get to where we are, especially here in America, if we didn't have someone way back in those other generations dreaming big for us, right?
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is really make sure that you are taking time to really think through what you want and that it's truly aligned with your core values. If you're not taking that time, if you're just, shiny object syndrome, I see that a lot with entrepreneurs, right? Really take the time to understand, okay, is this going to work for me now and in the long run? And 5 years from now, do I want this thing to exist? Do I want to be working on it? So thinking really through how you want to create something is absolutely key. And the last thing I would say is rest.
Mm.
We need more rest than everybody thinks. And me being closer to 50 than I am 40 these days, I'm such an advocate of like rest. You've got to get the rest, because if you can't show up rested and ready to go, how are you going to show up for everybody else? I mean, you've got to do it for yourself in order to be, a good example, as well as show up really well in the world for everyone else if you're, being rested.
Absolutely. Like they say on a plane, put your mask on first,
Indeed, indeed.
right?
And we tend not to do that, right?
No,
Again,
don't.
we have been taught, by our mothers and our parents and everyone, it's like, no, we're going to sacrifice everything and everybody else can have it. And we're just over here with like, the smallest little piece of whatever, right?
Mhm.
But no, it's high time for us to change that. We have to remember we are just as important as the others, possibly more so
Oh,
because we're probably the ones that are keeping everything together.
correct. Correct, correct. And you know what? You're definitely, singing my tune, and we're going to get into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I want to just mention, so you just said about in 5 years, how important is that thing going to be? And it reminds me of a conversation that I had with Arlen Hamilton.
Oh, I
So,
love her.
yes, yes, and she is the bomb. And so this was I had the conversation with her after her first book. Um,
Mhm.
and what was that? It's About Damn Time.
Yeah.
And so what she said, and she was talking about very similar to what you just said, is if that thing if if you can see that thing in 5 years, if that thing matters in 5 years, then you need to do it. It had to exist. And that's kind of like what we were talking about. And I've
Yeah.
even heard her say it had to exist when she's talking about like her venture capital business and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I heard her said in her podcast, what is it, your first million. And
Mhm.
so that is very important. You have to think about like if you're wanting something today, are you going to want that thing in 5 years? Are you going
Exactly.
to want that thing in 5 months? You know what I'm saying? You have to really put some things into perspective as to what energy you're going to give it. Now, some things, it is
Yeah.
okay to, have that like instant thing,
Right.
but you have to think about the relevance of it, right?
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, that intentionality is everything,
Mhm.
really just, again, like I'm saying, just making sure that you really want this thing because we put so much time and effort into everything that we do.
Every day.
And from my perspective, we as Black men, we were exceptional and
Oh,
we
yeah,
show up in such exceptional ways. And why waste your time if it's not going to be something that you want? Again, it's not about, the monetary gain or the accolades. It's really about how is that really going to be fulfilling within your life, right? And if
absolutely.
you need and want that thing to be there in 5 years, then you absolutely have to go and pursue it. I'm probably quoting her book. That's one of
Right.
my favorite books. It's about damn time. That's why damn is in Pretty Damn Ambitious,
Right.
is because I was reading the book around the time that I was thinking about creating this business, and I was like, ooh, let's add damn in there. Pretty
Yeah.
ambitious, yeah, but pretty damn ambitious, yeah. They'll
Right.
they'll let they'll let people sit up and take notice.
Absolutely, right? It'll catch our attention for sure.
Mhm.
And so you kind of already talked about this. This, as a matter of fact, was your third step in the 3 steps or 3 ways that we can tap into our power and voice. But I want to get a little bit more into it, right? And so that's the power in the pause. Again, we
Yes.
already talked about we need to rest. We definitely do because as women of color and Black women in particular, we don't always prioritize ourselves. We don't, take care of ourselves. And so I feel that, pausing is very important as you feel as well. So talk to us a little bit more about the power in the pause.
Yeah, there's a thing that I feel I probably should be working on called soft ambition, right?
Okay. Okay.
How do you make sure that your ambition is working for you, that you're not working for it, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you're allowing that time and space for you to dream big and for you to get the rest that you need. Power in the pause. First of all, I love that phrase. It is
Right.
absolutely essential. From my perspective, the most that I get when I'm tired or I'm overstressed, if I rest, everything is better.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, I meditate. I've been meditating since 2013. I meditate almost every single day. I think last year my stats were like I meditated 51 weeks in a row and I'm still going, right?
That's good.
That pause of me just taking that 30 or 40 minutes, just sitting down first thing in the morning and meditating, I feel like that actually fuels my ambition. It's giving me that space, that time, that energy to pull back into myself for me to connect with, my God and all the things that I'm working through, right? So I think you have to, even though it feels like I can't do it, I can't pause. Like, we've all been there where we feel like 1,500 things are on our plate, and if we drop one thing, the world's gonna die, but it's not. It's your ego talking.
Right.
Take that 5 minutes. Literally, if you got to get in the closet, like some mothers have to do to escape their children, or just sit in your car an extra 5 minutes and be 5 minutes late somewhere that you're going. It's worth it because you really need that time in order to just really be with yourself and know that you're worth that time and space for yourself.
Yeah. And, I think, as you were talking, I was thinking, I believe and I bet some women probably don't pause because they're not quite sure what that looks like. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? And it presents in so many different ways. You just talked about meditating. You even
yeah,
just talked about like just being still for like 5 minutes, which sounds like meditating, but it's not necessarily. It's just like you
right.
said, being still. So there's
Yeah.
so many different ways to pause. And so I think
Mhm.
that as we talk more about those different ways, then that encourages more women to go ahead and pause, because some of them probably thinks, oh, that means going to get a massage, or that means meditating, and those two things, whatever, they don't resonate
Yeah.
with me, or whatever the
Right.
situation may be, but there's
Yeah.
other ways to pause. And so
Yes.
really to explore it, and again, to listen and have conversations with women and ask them, well, how are you pausing? So thank you
Right. Right.
for adding to
Yeah,
that.
I agree. Like, 5 minutes, phone free. You can just close your eyes. You don't have to meditate, you don't have to pray. Just be with yourself. Just check in with her. How is she really doing? And it makes the most massive difference. It
Yeah.
really does.
And something that I need to practice for myself. So got a massage yesterday, and I had pain on the left side, and my masseuse, she says, it's a pinched nerve, and she was
Mm,
giving me like stretch, do this and forward, backwards. So those that are listening, you're missing out on me moving over here. So check us out on YouTube. But anyway,
yeah.
she's like, do that, right? And that's simple. And that
Yep.
doesn't even take 5 minutes for me to do that. But
Yeah.
here's the deal. When I wake up, before I get out of the bed, like I sit up before I get out of the bed, that's a
Mm,
time that I can pause
yep.
and move, right?
Yes.
So that,
Yes.
just a very simple way that we can pause. So I wanted to be
Exactly.
able to explore that. So thank
Yeah. Yeah. Stretching, deep breathing, just sitting,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Just sit
It's
before you hop out the bed.
yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be something crazy or onerous. It's just like really just take that moment for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to pivot a bit. So I honor my
Okay.
late sister, author and poet Soul True, by
Yeah.
asking about dreams deferred, which is the title
Mm,
of one of her books. Please share a dreams deferred moment.
that's a really interesting question. Dreams deferred. I would say I'm probably my grandmother and my mother's dream
Mm,
deferred. Like
okay.
they they were incredible women. I didn't have the best relationship with my mother. I left home when I was 13, but
Oh.
she had so many ambitions, for
Mhm.
lack of a better word. She had so many things that she wanted to do. And they're both passed away now. And I've been able to realize just so many things through their sacrifices, obviously, right? I think that I'm their dream deferred. Like if they could see me, they would be like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you for all that I've gone through and all that I've accomplished and all that I'm still working towards as well. So that's what I would think. As far as me, I don't defer my dreams. I just go after them.
No, and that's beautiful. And that, takes us right into to the next question. And
Yeah.
and also again, your three actions. Number one, dream big. So, I was definitely smiling when you said that, because I empower women of color to live a dream lifestyle.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and your dream lifestyle is different. Everybody has a different way that they live. So what
Right.
is a dream lifestyle to you? How do you define it? And then how are you living a dream life?
Oh, yes. Okay. So how do I define it? I define it in, I would say, fulfillment. Two F's, fulfillment and freedom.
Mhm, yes.
Am I when I wake up, am I excited about getting out of bed and doing what I do, or am I dreading it?
Yeah.
And if I feel that excitement, then I am living within that zone of fulfillment for my perspective. And then freedom for me, because I was in corporate, I worked in commercial real estate for almost 13 years and then started my agency over 15 years ago. Having that freedom, being able to have my own time, schedule my own time, never having to really, answer to anyone, having the freedom of finances because I'm making significantly more money than I was making in corporate. All of those add up to just a beautiful dream life to me. And I feel like I'm living my dream life. Can it be better in the sense of, I want to buy my, villa next to
Oh,
Oprah and Maui? Absolutely. Yes. But right now, like in the here and now, when I wake up and just enjoy my home and enjoy my clients, enjoy the members and people of my community, it's absolutely fantastic. And then also being able to share moments like this with other women and especially women of color, it's like we can do this. And I think a lot of times, again, we're so put upon and we're asked to do so much that we just literally forget about ourselves. And I just want women to remember you have dreams and your dreams matter, and you can make them happen. You can have the dream lifestyle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. So before we wrap, what would you like to leave the guests with? What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, thank you for that. So the one, this has been absolutely so fun. You've asked me questions that I haven't heard in a very long time as far as a podcast guest. The second thing would be I am having an event in March. It's called the 2024 Level Up Summit. We had one last year in February, and it was absolutely fantastic. And I would love to invite your audience to come join us. It is virtual, and I have intentionally made the passes at a massively reasonable price given the level of speakers that we have, because I want everyone to be able to attend this and get something out of it. They can go to Level Up Summit, excuse me, yeah, levelupsummit.co. I can't remember my own URL. Levelupsummit.co, not com.co, and learn more about our event in March.
Okay. And so tell us a little bit about it. Why should we attend?
Yes. Okay. So the theme of this year is amplify amplify your power, influence, and wealth.
Okay.
And essentially, I know when women talk about power, it's like frowned upon. It's like when women talk about ambition, it's frowned upon. When women talk about money, it's frowned upon. So I want us to understand that our power, our influence, and our wealth are the trifecta that can really help us do anything in life, right? And I'm not talking about power in like this crazy way. I'm talking about your own personal power. How can you step into the best version of yourself? And then from that, your influence. You influence more people than you know every single day. How can you be a positive influence in other people's lives, in other women's life? And then also, too, how can we actually grow our wealth, right? Not
Mhm.
only our monetary wealth, but just, all the wealth around us, right? But we
Yes.
do actually are talking about monetary wealth within the summit as well, really helping us understand the different financial vehicles that can help us get to that next level, because saving your money is not going to make you a
Correct.
multimillionaire. You have to invest.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? So again, when you were talking about the speakers, when you were talking just now, especially the wealth part, I thought about someone else. So Rachel Rogers, I'm sure you
Yes.
know her and love her as well.
Yes,
Um,
I was a schmilly.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yes. So yes. I love her. I love
Yeah.
her book. We Should All Be Millionaires, which
Yes.
I definitely agree. And the thing that I took away from her, and when I'm talking about Rachel, I always repeat this part, but she's all about growth. And so this kind of goes back to earlier when you talked about reviewing your list, because in essence, that's what Rachel was suggesting as well. What are some
Indeed.
things that you don't want to do? Take those things off your plate. Find
Yeah.
somebody else to do them, and it frees you up. And it frees you up in so many different ways. It frees you up physically. It
Yeah.
definitely frees you up mentally. Because I think that a lot of things weigh us down.
Yeah.
And we don't really do anything to get rid of them. We still just let them burden us, right? I think you've even mentioned that word in this conversation. But when we take the time to say, you know what, I really don't like to cook, which is one of the things, Rachel. So
Right.
let me hire someone, right? Or let me get a food service or something to
Yep.
free up that, because I don't like doing it. So it, brings me, I pause, but
Yep.
not in a good way. When it's time, to cook or do whatever that thing is that you don't like to do. So we need to think about that. And then also the growth mindset with
Mm,
Rachel, like you said, saving. So, they're like, oh, don't go get that latte, don't get this or that, save that money. Well, those few dollars really don't put a dent in anything.
they
So
don't.
instead, figure out how you can make money, so the
Exactly.
dream lifestyle that we're talking about, take time, review, think about what is your dream life, how do you want to live, and how much does it cost to
Yep.
live that dream life, and now what can you do to make that money. So that's what I took away from Rachel, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that those are some of the things that your speakers will talk about at your event as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're going to, be talking about exactly that. Also, too, this event is geared towards women entrepreneurs. And it's like, well, now you've got this business. Now what do you do? Right. And a lot of women entrepreneurs, they feel lonely, they feel isolated, they feel like they're doing it wrong. And it's like, no, you're not. And you're probably a lot farther than you think. And we're going to show you how to get to that next step and that next level. And while you're doing all of that, let's make sure that you're also growing your wealth on this side as well. So yeah, it's going to be pretty fantastic.
Awesome. It sounds very exciting. So we'll make sure to include that in the show notes when we send that out. So I have enjoyed this conversation.
Same.
Enjoy speaking with you, learning about you. Definitely there's some alignment. What your event is about is definitely what our listeners and those who watch, what is important to them as well. So I'm glad for that. And we're going to make sure they get that information. But Bianca B. King, thank you so much for lending your voice on Women of Color in Intimate Conversation, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.